Romantic comedies are the best. They make you laugh, they might make you tear up a little bit, and in some way, you'll be left with that warm feeling of gratification in a fictional love relationship. This year, we sponsored Café Catholica in the Archdiocese of Galveston-Houston, an annual summer event where young adults get together for a 4-week series that includes mass, dinner, and a speaker. This gave us the opportunity to ask young adults, what is your favorite rom-com, either a movie or television show, and why? We'll also get some insight into why we love romantic comedies from our counselor, Larry Freeney with Rejoice Counseling. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to Max Studios and hit the bell icon so you can be the first to see new episodes. And check us out on Instagram @MaxStudiosUST to stay in the loop and get behind the scenes sneak previews of all of the shows we're working on. All right, get the popcorn ready for this episode of Agape and Eros. Okay, to establish our scope, the definition of a romantic comedy, according to Merriam-Webster, is a light comic movie or other work whose plot focuses on the development of a romantic relationship. This style or genre of work is also called a rom-com. With this in mind, let's hear from the young adults at Café Catholica saying what some of their favorite rom-coms are and why.
My favorite romantic comedy was probably the last one I've ever seen, which was Crazy Rich Asians. And I feel like what I took away from that one was that it's not about the money that they were all, like, a lot of the family was after. It's more about the heart, which won out in the end.
My favorite rom-com is She's the Man, and one thing I took away from it is that nothing should stop you from chasing your dreams.
Moonstruck. I learned you need to chill. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Once you chill, everything else becomes a little bit easier. Just a little.
So my favorite rom-com is How I Met Your Mother. And my favorite takeaway is how to learn how to let go, right? Sometimes letting go it can be the best gift that you can give the other person and yourself. So,
my favorite romantic comedy is My Best Friend's Wedding because love means doing what's best for the other person.
Favorite rom-com, Sweet Home Alabama. Biggest takeaway is, one, there's no place like home, and it's not always about the flashy, rich money things. Sometimes it's all about the humble beginnings right at home.
My favorite rom-com would have to be The Waterboy. My takeaway from it is that family is really important and you really can do it.
My favorite rom-com would be New Girl, and the takeaway for that would be that friendship is really important, just having a support group to rely on.
My favorite romantic comedy is Always Be My Maybe with Ali Wong and Randall Park. My biggest takeaway from it is any normal guy like me could be way better than Keanu Reeves.
Definitely a wide variety there, and I'm sure you had some favorites from that bunch. Larry, it's your turn. What's your favorite?
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
I honestly can't pick one favorite romantic comedy. I love them all, but sometimes it feels like they're a little bit the same, but it still doesn't stop me from wanting to watch it. Larry describes a little bit about rom-coms right now.
Now, the fun thing about romantic comedies is there's always a formula, right? And I love this formula. The formula is that first they meet, they don't like each other, there's always something wrong. Then things start going well and they're falling in love and everything is great. And then at the midpoint, there's always some disaster. Finds out that he's a convicted felon or he has another girlfriend or he's not really who he says he is. And that is always what complicates things. But the beauty of it is that at the end of the day, they're going to be together.
Most movies follow this general formula. It's always fun when a rom-com doesn't follow this though. Cue My Best Friend's Wedding and 500 Days of Summer. More often than not, people prefer the formula though.
You can really turn your brain off when you're watching them. You kind of know what's going to happen. You know the formula. You know at the end that the guy is going to get the girl and they're going to live happily ever after. Now, one of the issues with that is life doesn't always work that way. So when it comes to a mental health standpoint, rom-coms are actually really good for your mental health because they're predictable.
Okay, yes, I admit it. I turn on a romantic comedy because thinking about what's going on in the world can be very stressful. And when I find a rom-com that I like, I watch it all the time. Last Christmas, I watched Operation Christmas Drop 3 times until I realized I was probably wasting my life. I've seen Love Guaranteed a few times and talked about it on episode 2 of Agape and Eros. And I've only seen To All the Boys I've Ever Loved once, but I watched all 3 back to back to back. If predictability is what we're seeking in a rom-com, we'll most likely find it with some levity, humor, and a sweet love story. Larry describes how an unpredictable love story can be a little overwhelming, especially when we're feeling anxious or depressed.
Now, if you're watching a movie that you've never seen before and you don't know how it can turn out, that can cause issues for you because your brain loves consistency, especially if you're feeling down or you're feeling depressed or anxious. So that's why some people find comfort in watching their favorite movies over and over again because they're predictable, they know what's going to happen, and it allows them to escape into the world.
This totally makes sense. Sometimes we just need a break to escape, and rom-coms definitely provide that. This applies to lots of movies. People watch Lord of the Rings on a loop and Harry Potter over and over again. The question is, how do we prevent ourselves from being sucked into thinking that engulfing ourselves in rom-coms is more fulfilling than being a part of real life?
So romantic comedies, they have this beautiful aspect of them that you know it's going to work out in the end. But one thing to not fall victim to or prey to is thinking that life is like romantic comedies. Now, one aspect of romantic comedies that I really feel translates well to the real world is there's going to be some type of tension or strife. Now, the strife can look different depending on the circumstances, but there needs to be that moment where you're kind of falling out of the honeymoon phase of just meeting and you're really getting down to the nitty-gritty, especially if you're going to keep the relationship long-term.
Rom-coms don't cover all of the potential issues in relationships, for sure, even though we sometimes see these issues worked out in those disaster moments.
It's kind of up in the air and you're like, you know, hopefully it'll work out happily ever after, right? We don't get to see, you know, the first few marriage counseling sessions that happen afterwards, or how the issue that may be brought up at the beginning or in the middle of the rom-com, how it eventually gets processed and worked through. So life is not a rom-com, and it's not always going to have that happy ending. So it's something to prepare yourself for.
Again, Larry is right. The world in love, romantic or familial love, I might add, will chew you up and spit you out. And rom-coms can be nothing more than escapism. But you know what I'm reminded of when I watch 500 Days of Summer? Hope. Watching Always Be My Maybe shows how someone can totally take you by surprise. And Operation Christmas Drop showed how giving of yourself means more than getting ahead in your job. Silly movies, sure, but let's allow ourselves a little humor and happiness so that we can think purely and deeply about hope. In Fratelli, Tutti, Pope Francis says, "I invite everyone to renewed hope, for hope speaks to us of something deeply rooted in every human heart, independently of our circumstances and historical conditioning. Hope speaks to us of a thirst, an aspiration, a longing for a life of fulfillment, a desire to achieve great things, things that fill our heart and lift our spirit to lofty realities like truth, goodness, beauty, justice, and love. Hope is bold. It can look beyond personal convenience, the petty securities and compensations which limit our horizon. And it can open us up to grand ideals that make life more beautiful and worthwhile. Let us continue then to advance along the path of hope." Now let's listen to our young adults and hear the hope they find in rom-coms.
My biggest takeaway from it is any normal guy like me could be way better than Keanu Reeves.
Okay, I'm not mad at it. Let's continue.
I learned you need to chill.
Sometimes letting go it can be the best gift that you can give the other person and yourself.
It's not about the money. that they were all like a lot of the family was after. It's more about the heart, which won out in the end.
Family is really important, and you really can do it.
There's no place like home, and it's not always about the flashy, rich money things. Sometimes it's all about the humble beginnings right at home.
Nothing should stop you from chasing your dreams.
Friendship is really important, just having a support group to rely on.
Love means doing what's best for the other person.
Thanks to all the young adults who shared their favorite rom-coms for this episode. And Larry had a few more words.
And I apologize for the cicada because they are doing the most right now.
So with hope in mind, digital disciples, grab your favorite romantic comedy and enjoy. And just remember, keep loving, be joyful, and stay hopeful. Agape and Eros is a podcast produced by Max Studios at the University of St. Thomas in Houston. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook at Max Studios UST.